Muito boa noite, galera! Boa noite a todos! Sejam todos bem-vindos aí ao nosso canal do YouTube! Vamos vender o ouro na abertura e comprar o DAO! Beleza? Vamos vender o ouro na abertura aí e comprar o DAO. Compra do DAO na abertura e venda do ouro na abertura. Ok? Vamos vender e vamos comprar. Vendido aí no DAO. Ó, vendido no ouro e comprado no DAO. Beleza? Vamos ficar vendido nesse ouro aí até dar uma dor. Até dar uma dor. Beleza? Sucesso a todos aí, pessoal. Vamos lá. Dois caindo aí, pessoal. Tá indo aí o ouro. Tá vendo aí, pessoal, o ouro, né? Galera, essa venda aqui do ouro, o stop dele, nós vendemos aí no 12,42, né? O stop vai ter que ser aí no 15,42. E aí é bem aqui, a gente vai fazer uma venda, ó. Caso ele venha por 17 aqui, vamos vender. Se ele bater aqui no 19, também tem venda no ouro. Tá? E o alvo desse ouro aqui, nessa queda, o alvo é aqui nesse embaralhado de linha aqui, ó. 91, 79, 91, 14,91, tá? Ele dá uma boa grana aí, ó, $2.000, um lote. Pode ficar posicionado aí por alguns dias, uns 2 dias aí que vai dar certo, tá? E o Dow, o alvo é aquele alvo lá nos 300, tá bom? Deve subir, caiu muito hoje, né? Deve subir, alvo aqui no 300, 27,300. Ok? Se romper aquele 300 lá, ó, ele vai procurar novos alvos.
Fala aí, paizão, tudo bom? Como é que você tá? Estamos aqui na batalha, né?
Halloween. Olha o ouro, só o ouro. O ouro aí tá na máxima, né? Do dia. Aí. O tamanho desse candle aí no diário. Mercadeiro. Aqui tem venda, tá? Vou vender até a sogra aqui em cima, ó. 17 aqui, 15, 17. Vende até a sogra. É. Galera, o alvo aí do ouro aqui embaixo, tá? É o 14,91. Agora, se ele vier por aqui, a gente faz parcial. Na hora que eu fizer $300 aí, a gente sai da operação, espera um pouco e entra de novo, tá bom? Mas o alvo final vai ser lá. E o down lá pra cima, tá bom? O down a gente tem que estopar bem aqui, pessoal, ó. Bem aqui, ó. No 27 mil, tá? Beleza? Vamos lá, galera. Esse ouro aí vai derreter.
Vigorously defend itself. Meanwhile, the company's new executive chairman, Marcelo Claus, said it will boost diversity on its all-male board of directors. Right, that is almost it for Daybreak Australia this morning. Let's take a quick look at how the markets are shaping up. We do have trading in New Zealand up and running at the moment, looking a little weaker. Sydney futures also weaker by 1/3 of 1%. More to come in a moment. This is Bloomberg.
Boa noite, Miguel Martins! Agora que eu tô vendo o chat aqui, cara, um monte de coisa respondendo aqui, e-mail, mais de 200 mil e-mail, WhatsApp. Eita, menino! Eu vou soltar uma bomba nesse negócio aqui! Tem 6 telas! Olha aí, miséria! Olha aí, vê se tem condição, rapaz! Eu tô ficando doido! Olha aí, rapaz! Boa noite, Andreu! Mauro! Já vai dando a sua dedada aí do dia. Boa noite, Solismar. Elton, muito boa noite. Trabalha gráfico aqui de 5, meia hora, 1 hora, diário, do jeito que vier nós traça. Semanal, mensal. O negócio é ganhar dinheiro. Tá chovendo. Choveu só um tiquinho, só, Solismar. Boa noite, Ed. Ah, meu filho. Você bota aí, spread aí é gigante nessa hora. O menorzinho é do Dow. O ouro aí é. Se você entrar com lote, você já entra devendo já $52. Eita, menino! O negócio é bom demais.
Top stories this Friday. More trade war uncertainty shakes the markets.
Bota pra fora.
Doubt a long-term trade deal with the US is possible. There's bigger trouble back home for President Trump as the House votes to back the impeachment inquiry. And almost 5 months of protest tip Hong Kong into recession, its worst slump in growth since the financial crisis.
We have Breaking news out of South Korea. We are getting the consumer price inflation in South Korea for the month of October coming in flat. There was no deflation or inflation whatsoever. This, of course, coming after the first deflation number of contraction of 0.4% deceleration in the previous month ever for South Korea. Now, this is also a beat. Analysts had expected another month of pressure and deceleration for the inflation numbers. That did not happen. Year on year is flat. Now, when it comes to month on month, it was growth of 0.2%, which is also beating expectations. A slight slowdown from the previous month, though, when it comes to
galera, tá clicando aí um atrás do outro, assim, ó. Vocês têm que apertar o dedo aí, ó. Compra e venda direto, assim, ó. Até dar uma dor, até sangrar. Compra e venda, compra e venda, compra e venda, compra e venda, venda e compra, compra e venda.
Of deflationary trends. Now we're not seeing that, and inflation remaining flat for the month year on year in the month. Of course,
bora lá, pessoal. Por que vocês não estão botando esse ouro para rodar aí? Miséria é essa? Vocês têm que forçar aí o mercado. Vocês têm um monte de dinheiro aí para forçar o mercado, bora. Mercado de $1 trilhão por noite aí.
Sydney Aussie shares are under pressure, opening lower by 0.2%, extending decline then for a third session with more earnings and data in June. Including an anticipated pullback in a private survey of Chinese PMI and a weak Korean exports report. Plus, Hong Kong retail sales also looking dire.
Vocês já deram a dedada de hoje aí já, pessoal? No vídeo? Por que vocês não estão dando a dedada aí? Tem 775 milhões de pessoas assistindo aí ao vivo o Forex. Nunca vi tanta gente assistindo na minha vida. Bora, rapaz!
Over a long-term trade deal. An Aussie dollar under pressure back below 69, and after a second straight month of losses for Aussie benchmark bonds, catching a bit this Friday morning with yields falling 2 to 5 basis points across the curve after the overnight rally in treasuries that we saw, Paul, sparked by that soft U.S. manufacturing data. Paul?
All right, Sophie, let's check in on the first word news now with Jessica Summers. Jessica.
Thanks, Paul. Well, Hong Kong's economy has officially entered recession. That's after nearly 5 months of protests. Third quarter GDP shrank 3.2% from the previous quarter, contracting further than economists' worst estimates, and reordering the worst month since 2009 in the aftermath of the financial crisis. Finance Secretary Paul Chan said a full-year economic contraction is, quote, very likely. President Trump says British Prime Minister Boris Johnson's Brexit deal could hinder U.S. and U.K. efforts to strike their own trade deal. The president said the two countries could do, quote, bigger numbers if Johnson made a cleaner break with the EU. Johnson wants a swift trade deal with the U.S. to show the opportunities available for commerce after Britain leaves the EU single market. Islamic State has confirmed the death of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi and named a new leader to succeed him. Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Qurashi will become its new head. The group threatened to retaliate against the U.S. for killing al-Baghdadi and referred to President Trump as a, quote, senile old man. Al-Baghdadi was the highest-ranking terrorist leader targeted by U.S. forces since al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden was killed in 2011. And an investigation is underway in Pakistan after more than 70 people died when a fire broke out on a moving passenger train. The blaze was caused by a passenger small gas stove that exploded. It then set on fire other gas cylinders that were used as extra fuel. The train's conductor said the train stopped within 3 minutes of the first signs of fire, but passengers said it took the train nearly 20 minutes to come to a halt. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and at TikTok, on Twitter, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Jessica Summers. This is Bloomberg.
Chinese officials are casting doubts on the chances of reaching a comprehensive long-term trade deal with the U.S., even as the two sides close in on a Phase 1 agreement. Bloomberg's China correspondent Tom McKenzie joins us from Beijing. So, Tom, what exactly have we been hearing?
Well, we've been hearing that officials here in China are very concerned about the trajectory of travel for the long term in terms of these trade talks, particularly phases, quote, 2 and 3. Now, phase 1, of course, has been thrown to one side to some extent after the cancellation of this APEC meeting. Both sides say they're trying to find a new location to try and sign that deal, maybe in November. We heard that again from President Trump. But the key concerns for Chinese officials going forward are this. One, they're not going to budge on those key issues like structural reforms in terms of state subsidies, for example, and their industrial policy. Now, we've had a sense of that, of course, from really day one of these trade negotiations, but that's been re-emphasized by Chinese officials. The other concern they have, frankly, is the volatility, the impulsiveness of President Trump. They're concerned that they might make concessions only for President Trump to pull back at the last minute and leave them with a loss of face. That's another concern. In terms of tariffs as well, and China has long said that it wants a removal of tariffs. If you want a complete deal, you have to have all those tariffs taken away by the US, currently on about $360 billion worth of Chinese goods. Now, the problem there is that the US wants to keep at least the bulk of those tariffs in place as some kind of enforcement mechanism to ensure that China lives up to its side of the deal. So there's a big impasse on the question of tariffs. Now, China says it's willing to continue to negotiate past phase 1 if we do indeed get phase 1. But indeed, segment 1, which of course involves things like agricultural purchases, intellectual property protection, and a currency pledge by China and the US. And again, we're still waiting to know when and which location is going to be chosen for a signing of this deal if it comes to that.
How much of a win, though, was it for Beijing that the Trump administration actually agreed to break up this deal into different phases instead of just aim for a grand deal?
Ih, já tá começando a enrolar aqui.
Well, to some extent it was for Beijing, because of course for quite some time, early this year, President Trump and his team had said they want a comprehensive
Trump parece que não está querendo mais negociar com a China.
But of course the
Vai
economic
começar de
pressures
novo.
are being shown up in the US. We saw that with the latest growth numbers. We're seeing that across the manufacturing sector, and to some extent the consumer sector as well in the US. So of course you have the pressures articulated and underscored here in China very clearly in terms of the economics of this trade war and the drag it's having on China's economy, but in terms of what's happening in the US, it's being felt there as well. So of course, as we lead up to the 2020 election, President Trump wants to ensure that the economy is on sure footing and the markets are looking strong. So it seems like that's why he's gone for this staged deal. Again, he's saying in this tweet that the first stage of this deal is going to be 60% of the way there. And he's also said that he is going to continue. Negotiations will tick off or kickstart pretty quickly straight after that phase 1 deal is signed on phases 2 and then phase 3, trying to get ahead of that criticism potentially in the US that he's giving away too much to the Chinese side and allowing them to drag their feet on this. By the way, we had the Central Committee meeting here in Beijing over 4 days. We had a communique out on the back of that. We're still waiting for the full reading, which may come out in the next few days. But the communique emphasized from the Chinese perspective in terms of the central leadership here, a focus on what they described as market-based economic system, but no lines in terms of fundamental structural changes to the economy, and also say they want to improve the legal system in Hong Kong to safeguard, quote, national security. Again, you heard from Jude Blanchette from CSIS just earlier in the show saying that, look, ultimately this was about the party and President Xi reasserting their control as they face what they've described as increasing internal and external risks.
Yeah, Tom, in terms of that plenum among China's senior leadership, was there much, or are we expecting to see in that final communique, much discussion of trade? Because it all looks very steady as she goes on all those key items, such as Hong Kong, Taiwan, and policy towards the US as well.
I mean, the headwinds facing China right now are almost unprecedented in terms of those external pressures and the domestic pressures on the economy. Look, we think that the focus for the Central Committee meeting here in Beijing over 4 days was on the political apparatus, but strengthening that political apparatus and the role of the party precisely because those risks and those challenges
are so severe. Did they dedicate a lot of time to focusing on the economy? We're not quite sure. We'll get that clarity when we get a full briefing in terms of what was discussed over 4 days. But it was more about the politics. But you can't separate the politics, of course, from the economics. And again, it was interesting that Hong Kong came up, and it was, phrased in a way that is open to interpretation, but a focus on the legal system, quote, to ensure the national security of Hong Kong. Well, that does open up question marks about whether or not we're going to see more actions from Beijing in terms of trying to stifle the protests in the city of Hong Kong, where they're going to take a more assertive approach. That is something we'll have to focus on.
All right, China correspondent Tom McKenzie in Beijing, thanks so much. Well, the House has set Donald Trump on a path towards becoming only the third president in history to be impeached. Lawmakers passed a resolution that kicks off a public phase of the accelerating inquiry. So let's get over to Bloomberg senior international editor Jody Schneider. Jody, what does this impeachment resolution that was passed by the House set out, and what does it imply?
Yeah, well, Paul, it not only sets out a roadmap for how the House will proceed in terms of this impeachment inquiry, which of course it's already begun, but also it really sends a strong signal that the House intends to vote on impeachment. The House, of course, acts as a prosecutor in any impeachment inquiry or trial, and the Senate is then the jury. So this is a very strong signal that they're going to move forward with this very soon.
Okay.
So what's the risk here for President Trump when it comes to his re-election bid in 2020?
Yeah, so this is, there's a real risk, obviously, by going ahead with this. The president will have to spend a great deal of time fighting against this. He's already begun to do that. He called it the greatest witch hunt in history in his a tweet just in the last day. And actually during Game 7 of the World Series, the last game, put up a very expensive, his campaign put up a very expensive ad defending him and basically saying that the House was going on a witch hunt. So there's a real risk, and it's a real risk in terms of his re-election campaign, in terms of having to defend against this and spend a great deal of time defending against this, but also not being able to get much done in the next year before the election, because the year and change, another couple days in the year, and not being able to do much but focus on this. There's very little chance a Republican-led Senate will vote to impeach him, will act as that jury, but still he's going to have to spend a lot of time and almost all his political capital defending against this.
There was a reason the House Democrats didn't want to go on the record and put their positions on impeachment on the public record. Why is this, and what would the threat be for them?
Well, that's right, Sherry. They really had very much caution against this, but the House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, did not want to go ahead with this until very recently, until that Ukrainian phone call, that July 25th phone call between President Trump and the Ukrainian leader, in which he asked him to investigate his rival, Joe Biden. That really changed things for the House, and they decided to go ahead with first this inquiry and now this vote to move forward in a more very deliberate kind of way. The risk, of course, is that this, first of all, this all the Democrats are able to do. They're not going to be able to get through any kind of legislation in the next year, that they're really going to spend their time on this. But secondly, of course, there's a risk that this is viewed as them being going after the president, being political rather than looking at what's best for the country. The vote to go ahead with this inquiry was strictly along party lines. No sitting Republicans voted for it. So it gives the president, of course, a real bully pulpit to say the Democrats in the House are just trying to go after him. They're not interested in moving ahead with what's best for the country. So there's that, but there's also a risk that this fires up President Trump's base. He is very good at using these kinds of things, and things like, statements like witch hunt, to really use the base to take on the Republicans, take on the Democrats. And Democrats,
aí galera, o link aí, ó, nós temos um grupo aí do Forex.
Trump had won as president, are going to have some trouble. So it does have risks on both sides, but at this point it's also a risk for the president as he tries to go ahead with a re-election campaign in the midst of an impeachment inquiry.
Jody Schneider, thank you so much, our Bloomberg senior international editor. Still ahead, Hong Kong's economy contracted the most since 2009 in the third quarter as it entered a recession driven by months of pro-democracy protests.
But up next, the S&P 500 falls from a record high as China signals concern on a deal. How will the latest trade development play out in emerging markets? We'll talk to GAM Investment Portfolio Manager Rob Mumford. This is Bloomberg. This is Daybreak Asia. I'm Paul Allen in Sydney.
And I'm Shanrian in New York. Let's dive into the U.S. close. The S&P 500 fell from the record, and it wasn't just about U.S.-China trade. Fresh economic data suggesting U.S. consumer spending has cooled, and a new round of weak earnings reports added to bearish sentiment. Bloomberg's Sue Keenan is here with the latest, so give us the main takeaways.
Well, many of these companies, even if they met their revenue, it was the weak forecast that really spooked investors, led to some of the sell-offs. Let's take a look at the market snapshot. You'll notice one of the weakest areas was the industrial machinery, and that was a combination of the trade concerns as well as concerns about that weak manufacturing data. Let's go into some of the big movers and note the size of the moves. You had Apple and Facebook coming off of yesterday's strong results. They both had rallies. Notice Kraft Heinz also came in with strong earnings. U.S. Steel down on the trade war, the trade woes, and Wayfair disappointing earnings. I should point out there were several stocks that came out with disappointing forecasts. Twilio, we talked about their sales outlook falling yesterday at this time. They were down 11% in the regular session. And take a look, if we go into the Bloomberg, at the focus on the jobs data, which will be out later on Friday. Non-farm payrolls, as we've mentioned, expected to be under 90,000. And what is also likely to be part of that number is the impact of the 46,000 striking GM workers. It's the longest nationwide walkout for GM since 1970. That could be a very big part of this report. Paul?
All right, Sue Keenan, thanks very much. Let's turn to stocks in Asia now. We are poised for declines in the region today, and this, of course, after China reportedly on a long-term trade deal. Our next guest is an investment manager in GAM's emerging markets equity team. He's got over 25 years' experience. Rob Mumford joins us now in Sydney. Rob, thanks very much for coming in today. So, some developments on the trade front. China really expressing reservations about this proceeding much beyond the Phase 1 deal. Have you got your enthusiasm firmly checked at the door as well?
Yeah, I think the enthusiasm was always quite limited, even from the announcement. If you remember, President Trump talked quite forcefully about a Phase 1 deal, and
in response, actually, the Chinese comment was really just, we've made progress. So I don't think we should be surprised that they're sort of toning down the expectation even for phase one and then beyond.
So how do you trade EM Asia amid all of this noise around trade?
Well, we've seen it since the last month, as the tensions have eased, we've seen a very positive response. I think the real concern has been the trend in growth and the effect that these tensions have had on that trend. If you think about the US ISM number below 50, if you think about yield curve inversion, the level of rates, really that's been anticipating a very difficult period ahead, and the trade tensions have been a sort of catalyst for that. So I think what we're seeing now is a truce, and I think that's very positive in terms of the rate of change and the effect of trade tension on that growth. And as a result, what we're seeing is quite a positive market response, because of course areas of the market were sort of discounting at least a technical recession, particularly the value part of the market. So we've seen a rebound in those stocks as the fear of recession or technical recession recedes.
When it comes to value, how positioned are you in the Chinese market?
Actually, the China market for us all year, we've been more positioned in value because our thesis for China has been very much, it's got premium growth and it's got more conventional firepower to sustain that growth. So we've been quite fully weighted in the value segments, for example, insurance, property, on the back of an expectation of ongoing policy easing, and that's not just across monetary, but particularly this year, a lot of fiscal. We remain positioned like that because in fact, we think, well, this year's the focus has been very much fiscal and tax cuts. The data still remains weak, and we actually think next year, as the fiscal stimulus recedes, we actually expect even more monetary stimulus ahead. I think what happened, or the commentary around the Fed cut, I think perhaps takes away the chance of a benchmark rate cut in China. We do expect more monetary stimulus, we expect more reserve requirement cuts. We do expect this new loan prime rate to also see a cut probably before year end, and if the trade tensions remain difficult, perhaps the benchmark rate cut comes back on the table.
But we have seen a huge sell-off in the Chinese sovereign bond markets, right? So we know that you've added some highly indebted companies to your portfolio when it comes to China. Will this have an impact on corporate bonds?
So the China sovereigns have backed up a little bit, so the 10-year's gone from 3 to 3.30. This is a slight surprise, but not unusual. Quite often ahead of any sort of rate cut, you see a countermeasure coming from China. As I say, we do expect more rate cuts ahead, and actually, because of the very cheap valuations of those stocks, our exposure in that area has actually been performing quite well. So, we maintain, if anything, looking for more value exposure. The quality growth part of the market has performed extremely well. We're still positioned in putting out positive structural themes, but the rotation will continue to be, I think, to value.
Yeah, in terms of some of your funds, I think your Asian equity fund's up 21% year to date, and you've actually got half your personal wealth in EM assets. Is that still the case, or is the strategy here just get long?
The strategy's always been a little bit nuanced. As our China exposure explains, we've got structural longs, so we're positive on the long-term structural EM theme. This is premium growth, improving quality of growth at attractive valuations. And I think whether it be the fund or personally, we've kind of rotated out of the sort of bond proxy area, and as we hope the cycle evolves into a more sustainable one, we hope some of these attractive valuation growth stocks also start to perform. So, I think the opportunity remains in value, but you've still got very attractive segments of the market which have got long-term structural growth stories driven by the whole emerging or developing market drivers.
Rob, thank you so much for your time today. Rob Montfort, GAM Investments Portfolio Manager of Emerging Markets. And you can get a roundup of the stories that you need to know to get your day going in today's edition of Daybreak. Bloomberg subscribers, go to Daybigo on your terminals, also available on mobile in the Bloomberg Anywhere app. You can customize your settings so you only get the news on the industries and the assets that you care about. This is Bloomberg.
marido. E depois é o dia dos maridos que postarem isso e a mulher pegar. Vai cortar da mulher.
economy by several basis points, and they argue that will flow through to those companies, small businesses who are holding loans, for example, and will encourage them to spend more. Now, of course, you know, a lot of economists will tell you that the fiscal steps taken by the government so far, the measures they've taken to help especially small and medium-sized enterprises, along with what the banks are doing on the monetary side now, really won't be sufficient or won't be enough. They will have to unveil pretty major, hefty, targeted at the pocket type stimulus over coming months if they are to put a floor under where the economy is going. So I think the policy response so far clearly has been inadequate to the kind of shock that the economy is experiencing.
Yeah, and we could have another measure of that shock today. Hong Kong retail sales due. What are we expecting?
Well, we've already seen a record drop on retail sales in recent months, and there is no sense of a turnaround there. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, Paul, on the one hand, you've got the social unrest and protests on the ground clearly impacting sentiment, impacting spending patterns, impacting the opening times of the stores and the public transport system, all of which plays a factor in the net aggregate demand. We saw private consumption fall 3.5% in the third quarter. Now, on the flip side,
Well, Paul, this Friday we have earnings due from Japan, including KDDI, Sharp, and Mazda. Now, the car maker this morning saying results largely in line with estimates in a meeting.
Vamos lá, pessoal, já vai abrir aí o mercado asiático.
as 30%. Now, Apple manufacturer Murata did post a 37% drop in second quarter net profit, but it did raise.
E ele só tá andando pra lá e pra cá, né?
The stock was raised to overweight at JP Morgan. And Takeda revised its annual profit outlook for a second time as its Shire acquisition nets cost savings earlier than expected. So the drug maker forecasting a narrower operating loss of about $1 billion. And Tokyo Electron also boosted its outlook as it sees stronger sales for chip equipment, which Bloomberg Intelligence says puts the company's profit target within reach despite a possible sales decline in the third quarter due to seasonality. And check out Nintendo ADR surging the most since April after beating estimates thanks to the launch of the Switch Lite, which helped drive a 50% yearly increase in Switch sales. So fiscal second quarter profit, that doubled, but the company did leave its full year profit and revenue outlooks unchanged. Those are far below analyst estimates, despite a strong lineup of games for later this year, Sherry, and expectations for stronger hardware growth. Sherry.
So thank you so much for that. Joining us now for more on Nintendo and also other stocks is Atul Goyal from Singapore, Jefferies Equity Research Managing Director. Atul, always great talking to you. So you have maintained a buy in Nintendo, but you are no longer a high conviction in this stock. Why?
So just a bit of context, Sherry. We've had a high conviction buy call on Nintendo and Sony since 2013, Nintendo, and 2014 on Sony. Both these stocks are up 3.5, 4 times since then in the last 5 to 6 years. That's not a bad return. Coming to Nintendo, we still maintain buy, we still maintain the target price. They have fabulous results. Amongst most of the other tech companies, when they are seeing earnings decline, I notice 80 to 90% of the companies seeing year-on-year earnings decline. Nintendo is one of the exceptions where we are confident they will continue to grow earnings for the next 3 to 4 years at a compounded rate of more than 20%. It looks very solid. But the management execution and decision making leaves a lot to be desired in terms of speed. They're fairly slow. At this stage, we want to see them a bit more active, trying to seize the opportunities that lie ahead of them. And in a way, it's a message to the management. They need to do a bit more. Still a very heavy buy. This is one of the top buys. We have still 60% upside to our target price, but just not the high conviction that it has been when we believed it was a multi-bagger for a long time.
Are there more opportunities that they could actually find with their mega hit smartphone game Mario Kart Tour?
Yeah, so it's not just Mario Kart Tour. Of course, on Mario Kart Tour alone, currently it's only single player mode. You are playing with the computers or the bots. It's not enabled multiplayer. I mean, you can't play with your family, friends, etc. When that happens, the game starts to monetize even more. But it's not just Mario Kart. Nintendo has the biggest IP library in the world that could apply to mobile. Now, in the last, 12 years since this mobile game platform has started, they've had 4 games. Just 4 games. 4 is actually doing well. Now, Pokemon was not there, but this is their IP. So there is massive opportunity for them. Whether they go with Tencent or they go with Niantic, they keep exploring. Haven't done a lot on that front. They haven't seized those opportunities. The opportunity, Mario Kart, even though whatever game it was, is top 10, top 20 ranked consistently, even though it's not multiplayer. So the opportunity is very large, but they're not just seizing it.
Yeah, I'm detecting a note of frustration there from you, Atul. Why do you think that Nintendo is so slow with its decision-making and execution?
Partly it could be cultural. They've always been like that. They think in decades. Also, generally speaking, in Japanese companies, you don't have the management.
Aperta no X.
Price upside. So what the companies try to do is protect their downside. They take less risks. Nintendo does take risks in its own way. It comes out with products which nobody else has done well. So they do that, but when it comes to big strategic changes, they are very, very slow. Now, going on mobile, putting this game, making it multiplayer is not exactly strategic.
Tu vai em seu MetaTrade.
My belief is windows of opportunity don't stay open forever.
Você vai aí no seu MetaTrade, ó, coloca aqui, ó, exibir, aí vem cá, ó, caixa de ferramenta, aí ele abre aqui, ó, aí você clica, tem exposição, histórico, notícia, e-mail, calendário, empresa, mercado, alerta, sinal, artigos, biblioteca, VPS, expert e diário. Aí você vem cá, negociação, clica lá. Aí você tá vendo aqui, ó. Ó, você tá vendo aqui, ó, um X. Tá vendo aí o X? Tá vendo o X? Ó. Aí a sua ordem vai estar aqui, ó. Aí você aperta no X. O que você apertar no X, você sai da operação. Entendeu? Você zera a operação. Nada. Exponha. Recuperando, William. Obrigado aí. Ele vai se operar quinta-feira que vem, no coração. Ponto Safena.
Trick or treat, you're looking at live pictures of New York City's annual Village Halloween parade. Look at that. The year's theme right now is the spirit of being a wild thing. That's 6th Avenue right there. You're seeing hundreds of thousands of people dressed up in their Halloween costumes. Happy Halloween, everyone. This is Bloomberg.
Happy Halloween. Aí pessoal, hoje é dia do Halloween. Feliz Halloween para vocês. I take it back.
This is Daybreak Asia. I'm Paul Allen in Sydney.
And I'm Sherbrian in New York. Let's get a quick check of the latest business flash headlines. Hong Kong's hotel rooms are on average 25% cheaper than a year ago as ongoing protests crush demand. Data provider STR says the average daily rate for a room was about $137 in September. The Hyatt and Hilton hotels are among those that have seen revenue per available room plunge in recent months.
JP Morgan Asset Management says Southeast Asian markets still have selective investment opportunities. The fund's manager likes tourism stocks, particularly in Thailand, including medical tourism companies like BDMS. JP Morgan's ASEAN Equity Fund has beaten 87% of peers over the past 5 years. That's despite foreigners pulling more than $25 billion out of the region since 2013.
WeWork is being accused of discrimination by former CEO Adam Newman's ex-chief of staff. Medina Bardi filed a complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission alleging pregnancy and gender discrimination at the company. WeWork said it had zero tolerance for discrimination of any kind and would vigorously defend itself. Meanwhile, the company's new executive chairman, Marcelo Clore, said it will boost diversity on its all-male board of directors.
Alright, so let's take a look at how our Asian markets are trading right now. Over in New Zealand, off 1/3 of 1%. Here in Australia, we've been trading for just under an hour now. The ASX weaker by 1/4 of 1% as well. Kospi futures also pointing to the downside, and at the top of the hour, we're going to be having some very interesting data coming out of South Korea. We've also got the Nikkei opening at the top of the hour. Futures unchanged there. We just had the unemployment numbers coming in a little higher than expected at 2.4%. Alright, coming up on the next hour of Daybreak Asia, as I mentioned, we will have those South Korean trade numbers at the top of the hour. Johanna Chua, Citigroup Managed Global Markets Chief Asia Pacific Economist, is going to join us for reaction.
2 minutinhos para abertura aí.
So stay with us. Market open in Korea and Japan next. This is Bloomberg.
Asiático. É nessa hora aí que o pau tora, tá, pessoal? Agora vamos ver aí, quando for 9 horas, que direção que vai tomar aí o Dow, que direção vai tomar o ouro, tá? Porque é nesse horário que eles se deslocam desse bloco aqui. Tipo, ó, tá vendo que tá muito confuso aqui? Tá vendo? Ah, olha só. Aí na próxima hora, tá vendo que o ouro tá bem aqui, ó, confusão aí total aqui em cima. Aí na próxima 4 horas, que é daqui para de manhã, se esse ouro estourar aqui, ó, aí ele vem subir aqui para cima, ó, 15,17, 15,18, aí a venda lá. Nós vamos topar bem aí, tá? Pode estopar até aqui, ó, 15,14, 90. Porque se ele estourar aqui, ó, essa máxima aqui, vai embora. Aí a gente vai vender aqui em cima, para poder voltar para cá, para essa região que ele tá brigando. E se perder aqui, ó, vir por 15,01. Foi da onde que ele saiu aqui, ó, ontem, ó, abriu aqui depois do candle. Deixa eu ver aqui. Depois de 1 hora, né? Ó, ele abriu. Ó, quer ver? O mercado asiático abriu. Ele praticamente fechou 1 hora. Ele fechou no. Ele fechou aí no indeciso. Aí o que acontece, ó, aqui ontem, quando deu uma hora, ele caiu até 1 hora e depois ele caiu até as 10 horas. Aí quando deu 11 horas, ele caiu das 9 às 10. Aí quando deu as 10 horas para 11, ele começou a subir, ó. Então ele subiu, se deslocou daqui para cá, ó, tanto que ele subiu, ó. Subiu do 14,83 e foi até o 14,12. Aí o que eu estou pensando que ele venha fazer? Essa correção todinha. Aí ele deve voltar aqui para a região de 14,83, 14,93, tá? 14,91. Ele deve fazer esse movimento aqui para baixo, até a abertura do EWZ amanhã, às 10h30. Então quem quiser ficar posicionado aí no ouro até aqui embaixo, beleza. Agora tem que stopar aqui, tá? Quem tá vendido aí, tem que estopar aqui, porque aqui no tem que estopar aí no 15, 14, 90. Porque se ele romper aqui 15, 14, 90, ele vai lá buscar o 18 lá. 17, 18. Lá a gente vende. Beleza? Ó. Tá aí, ó. Na enrolação. Mesma coisa o Dow. O Dow chegou a subir, depois caiu, né? E o Dow na enrolação terrível. Então a gente tá com stop aqui, porque ele praticamente também tá nas máximas, né? Ó. Aqui em cima aqui seria a nossa saída. Se ele vier pra cá. É isso aí, cara. Estamos vendidos no ouro e comprado no Dow. Vai dar uma oscilada aí. Já já. Vendido no ouro, comprado no Dow. Quem comprou o Dow tá no ponto aí, ó. Na abertura do mercado asiático, compra aí. Quem não entrou na compra ainda. Olha a galera aí que tá entrando aí no chat aí, ó, no grupo do WhatsApp. Já vai logo recebendo o tutorial aí para abrir a conta. Já manda aí pro grupo para ser feliz. Para não ser feliz, manda também. Entendeu? Mete o pau aí. Olha o ouro aí. Derretimento glacial. Quem tá no ouro? Também no ouro aí. Só o ouro. Estamos só no ouro aí. Olha o Dow Jones. Quem tá comprado no Dow Jones? Estamos fazendo dinheiro. Quem gosta de dinheiro? Vocês gostam de dinheiro? Ou não? Não gostam? Vocês não querem conversar comigo hoje, não, pessoal? Tá bom. Vamos lá, pessoal. Galera, então é isso aí. Dow Jones, pessoal. Ele tem alvo aqui nessa região aqui, ó, entre 220 e 300, tá? Chegando aqui nessa região, vocês zero a operação e vende. O stop aí da compra do Dow tem que ser aqui no 27 mil, tá? E o ouro aí, a venda nele, a gente já fizemos uma venda. E aí o stop tem que ser aqui, ó, 14,90. E o alvo é lá embaixo, cara. Quem quiser carregar aí, o cidadão deve derreter aí. Vai lá pro 14,91. Beleza, pessoal? Galera, eu vou nessa aí. Já passei aí os alvos para vocês e os stops. E aí, sucesso a todos aí, tá? Essas operações da noite, pessoal, é umas operações assim mais tranquilas. Só depois que abre aí o mercado asiático que dá uma osciladazinha boa. Então, se quem quiser fazer uma graninha curta aí, dá para fazer também. Agora, quem quiser levar a operação aí, ele é muito direcional, o Forex, tá? E por isso que a gente tem que deixar os stops aqui, porque quando pega os stops, ele toma um direcionamento muito grande. Pegou o stop, se vocês quiserem entrar na venda lá em cima do ouro, vende lá em cima, 14,17, 14,18 tem venda. Aliás, 15,18, 15,17. Que aí ele vai voltar tudo. Tá, mas ele tá numa região, pessoal, olha só. Deixa eu mostrar aqui para vocês aqui de novo. Ó, ele tá bem esticado. Esse candle aqui de hoje, ó, ele veio, ele saiu de ontem, né, nesse horário, às 19 horas. Aliás, às 19 horas ele abriu, não, às 20 horas. Ele abriu aqui às 20 horas. E aí, meu amigo, ó, ó o tamanho desse candle aqui. Ele subiu bastante. Então o que a gente está querendo fazer? A gente está querendo ver se ele corrige pelo menos até o 15,02. Se ele perder o 15,02 aqui, que foi a última abertura, porque ele abriu aqui em cima. Aí se ele voltar aqui para a abertura que teve aqui, ó, por esses dias, foi aqui, ó, nesse dia. Aí se ele bater aqui, beleza, já vai dar alguém legal. Aí se ele perder aqui, ele volta para cá no esquendo aqui. Mas eu, assim, cara, eu creio que isso aqui vai acontecer dele anular esquendo somente na abertura do EWZ amanhã, 10h30. O que ele pode vir fazer, pessoal, na madrugada aí, é ele chegar por aqui assim, ó, até 7 horas da manhã, já vai dar um golpe fatal aí também, que abre o mercado europeu. Tá, e provavelmente ele deve buscar aqui o 15,04, 15,03 aqui nessa região. Aí pode ser que aqui, cara, quando abrir 7 horas da manhã, aí pode ser que ele volte. E aí não vem anular. Só deve anular quando abrir o EWZ, tá? Às 10h30. Abriu o mercado americano, que é às 10h30. Porque o mercado americano é muito forte, né, cara? É o melhor horário que tem para operar, tá, pessoal? O Forex. Mas só que a gente está operando aí o mini índice e o mini dólar, né? Então eu fico passando para vocês aí os pontos durante o pregão. A prioridade do canal sempre foi, né, o mini índice, o mini dólar. O Forex a gente opera pela noite, dá os pontos aí, ensina alguma coisa, né, que a gente também está aprendendo, e passa para vocês. Aí amanhã às 10h30, que é os melhores horários para operar o Forex, porque ele anda muito, pessoal, tanto como sobe como desce, e aí dá para você fazer várias operações, tá? Aí tem muita gente, pessoal, que trabalha com tempo gráfico de 5 minutos, e aí fica trabalhando nessas médias aqui, ó, de 21. Aí, por exemplo, ele está trabalhando aqui, aí você compra aqui, bota o stop aqui e sai aqui, faz uma operação rapidinho. Só que nesse horário, cara, o spread ele é alto, né? E quando é no horário do mercado americano, esse spread aqui, ó, ele diminui. Por quê? Porque entra muita gente fazendo as operações, muita gente faz as operações curtas, elas não fazem operações longas. Então, quem determina esse spread aqui é a corretora. Cada corretora determina o seu spread, porque você só paga uma vez só uma taxa de entrada. Só isso. Pagou aqui para entrar, acabou. Você só paga uma vez só. Aí você não paga taxa de monumentos, não paga imposto, não paga nada. Nem taxa de saída, nem nada. Diferentemente da B3, você paga um monte de coisa e ainda paga a corretagem, né? Aqui você só paga mesmo a corretagem para a corretora. Acabou. Mais nada. E aí, nesse horário às 10h30, esse spread aqui, ó, para corretora é interessante ela diminuir, porque entra muita gente fazendo as operações e é uma operação atrás do outro. Então, para a corretora é excelente esse spread diminuir. Pra vocês terem noção, pessoal, o spread do petróleo, ele praticamente nem existe, mas também o petróleo ele quase não anda, né? Ele fica muito parado. Os pares de papéis, pessoal, os que mais andam, o primeiro lugar é o ouro. O ouro ele tem uma volatilidade muito grande mesmo. Aí vem o Dow, tanto é que é os dois papéis aí que a gente trabalha com ele. E aí tem uns malucos aí, tá, pessoal? Tem uns outros papéis meio malucos aí que eu ainda não quis colocar ele na grade aí pra gente operar, porque é só questão mesmo de tempo, né? Por exemplo, esse do Japão aqui, ele oscila bastante, né? E o spread dele não é tão grande, dá para você trabalhar. Esse de cidadão aqui, ó, ele oscila muito, que ó, o Singapura versus o Yen, né? Do Japão, Yen ou Yan, acho que é Yan. Ele oscila muito. Esse doidinho aqui, ó, dólar versus o Yan, é Yen, o Japão é Yen, né? Ele oscila muito também. Só que são, assim, pessoal, são spreads um pouco mais longos, sabe? Mais caros. E tem esse cidadão aqui também, ó. Esse aqui é o dólar versus o chinês, aí o Yen. Entendeu? Ele de vez em quando dá essas pancadas assim, ó. Então, assim, o que a gente mais opera, que dá para operar legal, que dá muita volatilidade, é justamente esses papéis aí que eu mostrei para vocês, que é o Dow Jones e o ouro. Você pode olhar aí, ó, que nesse horário aqui mostrei alguns papéis aí para vocês, aí uns par de moeda, e você pode ver que os candles maiores são justamente nesses dois, né? Então a gente operando esses dois aqui, ó, esses dois ativos, dá tranquilo aí para vocês fazerem um dinheirinho aí durante a noite. E durante o dia, quando o mercado americano abre, ele oscila bastante, tá, pessoal? Oscila muito mesmo. Ele é muito direcional. Beleza? Galera, eu vou nessa aí. Um abraço a todos. Fiquem com Deus. Boa noite a todos vocês. Tá legal? E a gente se vê amanhã, tá bom? Quem for ficar no Forex, amanhã às 18h50. Quem for operar o mini índice, o mini dólar, a gente se vê amanhã às 10 horas da manhã no canal do YouTube. E às 8h40 na sala privada. Beleza? Até amanhã, boa noite. Muito obrigado pela atenção de todos, tá, pessoal? Deus abençoe cada um de vocês. Um abraço. Muito boa noite. Tchau, tchau. Obrigado aí de coração mesmo. Valeu. Tchau.